And what I'm going to talk about is something that is a positive in this entire situation. It's an extremely positive thing that I've seen over the space of time. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. What happened on January the 6th? I want you to understand was atrocious. But at the same time, January 6th showed us what kind of country and what kind of era we are in. We're in an era where people feel that they need to come out of their comfort zones and bring about change. That's what it means. And I have been part of these organizations which brought about change, both on the internet and as you can see, I'm very expressive in social media, YouTube. And I come from the place of you don't have to be 100% to express yourself. The rawness of it is important. That the average Joe would get up and make a YouTube channel. I've seen it. I've been in a movement like that, where the average Joe began to speak out, form their own YouTube channels, take action. The only difference is that the channels and avenues you go through do not require violence. Having a voice does not require violence. I go back to Georgia and its elections. I want to talk about it for a minute because January 6th symbolized two ways of taking action. What we forget was the day before, both Senators Perdue and Kelly Loeffler were voted out of office. And John Warsack and his Jewish counterpart were voted in. And there were injustices done in that election. A lot of voters were disenfranchised of their vote. And those court cases are still going on. But what did the people do? It motivated them to activate the voting force in a manner that never has been seen before. To get people to care in the process, to get more people involved in the system, to get more people interested by showing how important the system is, the process of democracy. I remember President Barack Obama talking about how each individual is important in the process of democracy. And the process of democracy is not alien to us. It is not something that is apart from us. I will explain how simple democracy is. You have a choice of saying good day to your neighbor every morning. It's a proactive choice. You can choose to see your neighbor, focus on your own affairs, and go your way and say nothing. Or you can wake up when you see your neighbor, you say hello, have small chit chat, and then be on your way. That's a choice. Democracy allows a certain degree of choice in small things. Relationships. Relationships are one of the closest and strongest things in life. Forming relationships with people. Democracy affords that and allows people to form relationships even in things which are adverse to the very democracy itself. These are freedoms, freedom of speech. Democracy allows us to say whatever we want to say. Of course, subject to the rules and regulations in different environments. Say, for example, syndicated television has rules that govern what you can say on them. Cable TV has rules on what you can say on them. And movies have rules on how things should be rated that allow people to be informed how far the freedom of expression is allowed and what acts, may be simulated on them. However, society frowns upon certain actions which cross the limits and lines of a democracy. No one will endorse the freedom to rape, the freedom to murder, the freedom to abuse other people physically and mentally. The society frowns on these things. I say the society because it is a moray or a morale. The society is built on a constructed building blocks of character. The idea that certain things are adverse to coexistence of humans with each other. It is on these principles that democracy was built. And it is noble principles. But they allow us to interface with each other and try the best, one used at their highest, to be able to interact with each other and bring out the best in each other. It is an ideal that we pursue. We work towards that ideal. Now listen to me carefully. Why do we like superhero movies? Why is it that a superhero movie appeals to us? And Zack Snyder understands the mythology very well and the deeper meaning behind the mythology. This is why I like Zack Snyder's movies. If you go on Facebook, you'll see that the icon that I adopt, and as well on Twitter, is Superman. Not because I am some Superman. Oh no, I'm a normal human being just like you and everyone else. No, it's the ideals. It is the understanding of the principle that governs the embodiment the character has. The House of El, the symbol being hope. Hope is an ideal. Hope is a quality. Hope and hopefulness is an attribute that can build character, carry a person forward, help them to pursue and drive them to do things which are good. In short, this is all that we hope to do in this world. To be some sort of beacon of light to someone else. To be an example, to be something or to embody something that someone can aspire towards. Aspiration. Hope brings about aspiration. And hope sometimes fosters inspiration. So, where am I going with this? The power to evoke change is inherent in each individual. All of us have more power than we think we have, and we are able to assist in the evolution of things. Each of us' contribution is in some special different way. As individuals, we have unique ways of contributing. But we must understand that we are a part of something and not that very thing itself. This is where demagoguery and singularity goes against that. It also is equally sad when people do not feel like they are a part or contributor of a given system or a given community. For a human being to have value, they always ask themselves this fundamental question: what is my purpose? What am I here to do? That's the question you would have asked yourself at some point in your life. The sense of usefulness is more potent and more powerful. In fact, a person does not live, even though he may be doing the usual things, or she, of breathing and eating and being comfortable, but a person truly does not live until they go into what their purpose is, when they act within what they were born to do, their calling, their purpose. So, as a result of that, if an individual is not accomplishing that which he was born to do, they can be very miserable and succumb to depression, hate, and become a tool that is destructive. So, when I am talking to you about this very powerful thing, even the thing that drove the mobs on January the 6th, is something called activism. But how do you harness the potency of activism without being violent? How do you do that? How do you harness the power of the human being, the potential, the hope to be a force for good without being violent? Step one: relationships. The foundation of human existence is based on relationships. You start off with the people you know. Sometimes people don't understand what you're doing, so that means you'll have to get around people you know who may share one or several aspects, or are, even though they don't understand what you're doing, encouraging to you to move forward in what you were born to do. That is the first step. It seems very simple, and it is very simple. It calls for you to come outside of your comfort zone, though. It calls for you to start to interface and interact with people you normally wouldn't interact and interface with. It calls for you to come out the shadows and come out the shell and do unorthodox things that you normally wouldn't do, which are good. They must not be evil, obviously. That will, in the long term, have huge productive results. One of the simple things: take your phone. And if you're not someone who contacts your friends and shares memes or shares information, jokes, whatever it is, take your phone today and seek to put one good word out into the cosmos. We have so many different social media outlets for people to express themselves. And believe it or not, you are heard, and you are heard all over the world. And what you do does matter to somebody out there. The most critical thing is to start, to do things you would not normally do. Now, activism involves organization. That's the second step. If you know that there is an injustice that has been done, now you need to have an organized approach towards rectifying that injustice. And you must be relentless about it. Some people are gifted at being organizers. They're very good at doing that. It may not be you, but you can make steps in the direction of organizing things. Just the idea of putting ideas out there, just the idea of stimulating the process or triggering it to go forward by your constant, relentless addressing of the subject every single day, your continual commitment to addressing the subject every single day. That is a start that can spark things in the right direction. And the people, the correct people who are specialized to do organization, can take it to the next level. But it starts with you speaking out, as simple as it sounds, and addressing the issue and not letting go of the issue, staying relentless on the issue. That's the second level of activism. To focus in on one specific issue and take it as your own and speak on it. But before you speak on any issue, I do ask and request of people that they do due diligence and research the issue thoroughly from all different sources. So I'll give an example of what I'm talking about. Now, the impeachment hearings that are going on currently, they haven't gone through all the former channels of due process because of what has happened at the nation's capital, which is so blatant, so obvious, and the optics of it. The people who are impeaching have chosen not to go through all the different channels and processes. Some of the channels and processes were done, but not all of them that usually traditionally have been done. They're not prerequisites, but unorthodox president, orthodox channels. However, it is to be noted that this did not happen, because this also will be a precedent for in the future. What I mean by this is there should be caveats to these situations, meaning that due note on the record should be done. And I do believe several Republicans have made that noteworthy. And it's a very important, noteworthy thing to address on the notes. And some Republicans have said due censorship might have been the best way to do it. The problem with this is all of these processes are quite lengthy and long, and impeachment, why it was seen through legal channels, it challenges as legal channels as the best option, is because this president has done multiple impeachable offenses to start with. And when you look at the accumulation of the impeachable offenses, though this is just one of several, this one's the most horrendous of them all. Not to say that the others weren't horrendous. This one, it should have multilaterally been agreed upon by almost the entire of Congress and Senate, and they should just. This thing should be knocked down in a couple of days. This is an open shut case in terms of the optics, in terms of the public decision making, and I will post up several polls showing you that around 60-something%, about 63% of the public believe that Donald Trump was responsible for what happened. And the buck stops with the big man. Everybody knows that. The buck stops with the president. And the fact that Donald Trump has not in any way, shape, or form shown any kind of regret for what he has said, though it has cost lives, he's pretty much tried to justify his position, meaning that the language that he has used, he's free to use it again and again and again. This is basically what he's saying is not good at all. It's destabilizing. It obviously was taken by the certain elements, quite a substantial elements of his followers to mean to attack the Capitol, and they came prepared for that, to wreak violence and havoc. So the fact that he was reckless with his language. So no matter how you look at it, it's insightful, because whether he intentionally intended it for it to be insightful or he didn't, it definitely revved them up. Okay. And that's an inciting to violence. And no matter how you look at it, it may not be in literal legal terms, the actual wording, legally speaking, the Supreme Court might say legally, the actual words, but you can't look at just the words. You have to look at the context. You have to look at the history. to see that there has always been violence in any Trump rally to start with. And second of all, um, he literally spoke about the upcoming event and the deadline and the words of the event. It's going to be wild. These things just were just tremendously terrible. And you could see that Donald Trump literally appeals to some of the more guttural elements of society. And as one of the it was one of the Congress people said, um, these extreme wing, right wing groups have gotten a voice with him, and that is terrible. That's horrific. And in fact, it's still ongoing, as we know. The threats right now to the democracy are real. And I understand that some of these groups, their agenda, their agenda does not align with Donald Trump's agenda. Donald Trump's agenda is for him to get back in power, to win elections. But some of these extremist groups use that as a means to overthrow the state. You know, while their aspirations and their goals may overlap with Donald Trump's own, in no way, shape, or form is his endpoint their endpoint. You know what I mean? They have a lot more horrific goals than just what he may have in mind. You know, everybody's got their own agenda, and if he's working, if he embodies things that work for them, absolutely they would they go along with it. It works for them. So you have to understand all of that. So how do you, as a person, make a difference, make a change, do something about a situation without being violent, but yet being very extremely powerful? No one individual can be powerful. A group of individuals, as you can see, a mob can be powerful, but also people who work through systems and channels can be very effective. And we saw that in Georgia with the lady who, you know, mobilized voters. And this was something that they were organizing for years. And they were able to bring up the grassroots people, get them really, truly interested and involved and undeterred going to the polls to vote. But it took organization. It started off with expression. Someone expressing something and now needing the connection, the relationship, getting people to hear them, getting people to realize this was important, getting them mobilized. And then, of course, certain incidents that happened, the George Floyd incident that really rocked the whole entire world, not just black people, but the entire world saw this and were horrified by it. And this, when they realized this administration didn't fully and completely and horribly condemn it, and look to seek justice against the police officers who did this atrocity, it swept the globe. This was a global event and opened the eyes to a set of people who were not aware of how tremendously horrific and how tremendously horrendous policing can be against minorities. So that also drove people to action because they realized this is not a system or administration they want to be under. All right, so different elements can also assist in your progress to make change happen. And nonviolent change, by the way. I believe that the breaching of the Capitol building also assisted people, and I mean people of all races were able to see the stark difference in how white privilege was treated. And now white privilege is a word that everybody has clearly seen and understands in America. If you didn't, if you were somewhere under a rock, if you were ignorant about white privilege, now you've seen it live, direct, it's blaring in your face. And the important thing about that is that it assists people who have been speaking about these things and proving them to be true. Proving these things to be true. Now you can't, it's so clear what happened that now you know, okay, that this is just a no. It's a no. There ain't nobody going through the Capitol building. Nobody. If I try to go right now at that Capitol building and I try to walk all the way through and just try to barrels through the metal detectors and try to, just barge my way into the Capitol building with boldness and so on, oh, I wouldn't make it out of there alive. I'd be shot. I'd be dead. So how did these people manage to do that? And saying that it was just their numbers, well, guess what? Guess what? They were in the Capitol building, but then they let them out of the Capitol building to go free and roam America. No, forces should have contained them and kept them there and arrested every last one of them. If you weren't on the Capitol building grounds, then you're okay. But if you were on the Capitol building grounds, you should have been arrested on sight. On sight. And additional forces came in. And these people were left milling around on the outside of the Capitol building until a curfew. Are you crazy? Are you stupid? What is wrong with you? So, we are clearly understand if that wasn't blatant, nothing will be. The whole entire world has seen white privilege. And guess what? White privilege is not unique to the United States of America. And for all those countries to say, we take pride, we don't do that, we take pride. No, you do. You do. Racism is in your country too. It is what it is. But it doesn't have to stay that way. We can be brothers and sisters in a real way. We can get along in a real way. But activism and being involved, activating yourself to come out of your comfort zone and get up and move around and do something that is beneficial, that's activism. It's something that, because civics is no longer taught in schools, we have a vacancy of that. There are not a lot of young people who are interested in politics, but now more young people are going to be interested in politics because they're interested in making changes. And politics doesn't mean you have to be a senator, a governor, a minister, a counselor. You don't have to be those things in society to be political, to be someone who can make change in society. It starts with small things like doing a paper route and serving your society and getting compensated for it. It's simple little things like going and selling candy, water, being part of the business community, being part of the programming community, etc., etc. Okay, fixing things for people like phones or whatever. It's a method of service where the community gets to know you for something you do. It's as simple as that. And could call for creativity, innovation. Oh, he's the YouTube guy, or she's the the person who makes curtains, or the costume design person, or the person who makes ice cream. Those key things are things that help the society, because now you've activated, you have a role, you have a purpose. And then on top of that, now you can move from there into different ambits and spheres and move around looking for vacancies, looking for needs. How can you help the community be better? How can you help the small community be better? How can you make bigger communities better? That's how it works. Because it's not just what you do, it's what you seek to offer to make things better. And that's a mindset of service, actually. Yeah. So these are simple little things that we can go about doing. I should have gone out and done some business today, but as you can see, my hair is scrappy and I haven't combed my hair and stuff. I just was absorbing a whole bunch of information as usual and processing it. And I thought this is the way to begin it for a lot of people out there. A lot of people are going to be shocked, disappointed. They're going to be traumatized that they're lied to by politicians. But let me tell you something. This is another very true thing. Politicians are not perfect people. Politicians are people just like you and me. Uh, and that means a lot of politicians and a lot of people are skeptical of politicians are flawed. They sometimes over exaggerate things that don't need to be over exaggerated. And sometimes they play down things that don't need to be played down. Sometimes they pick sides just for the benefit of their own personal gain. So some of you are disappointed that Donald Trump lied to you. Don't be. It's a human condition. I remember being very disappointed when I found out that one of the greatest religious leaders out there, which was Jimmy Swaggart, he was involved in pornography. At the time, it was just, I mean, it was unthinkable. That was in the 80s. Now, then I had the experience again with Eddie Long. The man preached the truth. Turned out he was involved in some horrendous things. And then I began to realize they're human beings, like you and me. And they're tested and they have responsibilities, but they have flaws. Human beings have flaws. And while I don't celebrate the flaws, I do understand they're human beings. But when you put all your confidence, when you put all your strength, when you put all your trust in a singularity, instead of in an idea or a concept, which may be flawed as well, you must understand that you may be lied to. Human beings have flaws. That's why I worship no man. I honor all men, but I worship none. Right? And a lot of you are beginning to be independent thinkers because there's a lot of information out there now. And the truth's coming out. Now you have to understand which pieces of information are verified, which pieces of information are true. Now it's about sifting through the information. But we always have a voice. We always have a say. I always love these little mediums. I can't believe I'm talking through a phone. You act, it's still an unreal reality for me. The fact that I even do music on the phone. I do music on the phone now. I don't even do it's crazy. It's a trippy concept. You know. Um, I do my studio work on the phone. I think I must go get that studio work. I do studio work on the phone. I edit on the phone. It's crazy. What a little device about what is it? 6 inches by maybe 2 inches, 3 inches could do. This is the age we live in, and it's crazy. It's unbelievable. And I come from a period of time where we never had these things. We never saw a smartphone. What is that? That's how far we've come. And it's all for you to be able not just to enjoy music and enjoy things and now be passive and just listen. No, this in device is interactive. This device is two-way. You now have the ability and the power to use it to transmit things you are passionate about. This is all about you. All you have to understand, you have much more say, much more power today than you ever had. I remember with London Real, when YouTube banned London Real from from YouTube, and then they started banning him from other networks all around. And the people said, "No, if you're going to ban him, we're not going to use your service." And they started withdrawing their support from the service. That's how powerful you are. And they reversed their decisions, linking. And I want to show you something. There are peaceful ways to exert your power. I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to give you one more. You go to the store and you buy things. And then you find out that one of the manufacturers of your products is doing something that is just unacceptable. You as a consumer have the power to boycott that product. To say, we're not putting our dollars into that. What is the biggest thing that even countries do to each other? They withdraw their monetary support. They withdraw their business from countries which have done heinous acts. This is how they put sanctions down on them. And you can boycott a product and put sanctions down on it. That's the power that you have. So you must understand, physical violence is not a way, it never is a solution to problems. The way of Adolf Hitler failed. And you know why it failed? Because he tried to force nations to submit under his control. But there's another way. You can allow people to make decisions and choices, letting them understand that there are consequences to their choices. You can motivate and mobilize and inspire people to do things they don't normally do. That's a positive way to enable positive change, to drive people to want to do things not because they're scared or afraid, but because of the possibilities, the positive possibilities that things can happen and be. The less people act out of fear, the better things are. Fear is to keep people in line, but inspiration and hope drives people forward. And you want people to drive forward. You don't want them to do the bare minimum. You want them to go gung-ho forward. You know, for anybody who has done, or if you've been a child, you know, when you run wild and free. You leap in the air with everything you've got. You throw stuff with your hand, whether it's a football or whatever, with everything you got. That's what you want. You want freedom to flex your muscles. You want freedom to express yourself to the fullest in a positive way. And activism allows you to do that. And this is the world we live in now. But do understand, popularism is not always correct. There are deceivers out here who will try to deceive you. And some of you have been deceived in these elections. And to some degree, it has led to the tragic, fatal events of January 6, 2021. A very, very sad day in the history of the United States of America. And as strong action is taken, and we look back as people's emotions, because I know a lot of people are heated about this situation. And as people look to deter the events so they never, ever, 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 ever happen again, I want people to know that you can evoke change. But one of the things you must check to see is, and you must scrutinize and you must deliberate, is when you make your motions to have change, ask yourself the question, and it's because society has become so immoral, or some of the society, and uncaring, they don't look at morality the same way. But ask yourself the question, what will my actions actually do? Who is benefiting from my actions? If I alone and people I know are the sole beneficiaries of my actions, then there's something wrong with that. However, if everyone is going to benefit from our actions, and we talking from a moral perspective, which is honest, not a dishonest moral perspective, because we can trick ourselves into believing that. But from an honest moral perspective, we realize that myself and other people will benefit from it. There is no one going to be hurt by this process. And it's a go. By all means, do it. But we usually hesitate on doing things that we really should do, and we participate in destructive things that we shouldn't do. Because it's easier to destroy than it is to build. Wrecking a house, easy. Building a house, difficult. But there's just so much more joy and sense of accomplishment by building a house than destroying one. I'm what you need. I hope that you guys, no matter where you are in your life, no matter what you do, that you would be a beacon of light to this world in whatever small way you can. I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace.